no one expected it. Usain Bolt prevents a coup against Ibrahim Traoré, in Extremis. The afternoon sun bathed Ouagadougou in a golden light characteristic of the dry season. The International Azalai Hotel, in the heart of the Burkinabe capital, buzzed with activity. A Pan-African Forum on Youth and Sovereignty was being organized there, bringing together political leaders, intellectuals, and influential figures from the continent. Ibrahim Traoré, the young president of Burkina Faso, arrived to the cheers of a crowd of young admirers. At 36, this captain turned head of state after leading a coup in 2022 embodied for many the hope of an African renewal. Dressed in his khaki military uniform, a red beret on his head, he greeted the crowd with a discreet but warm smile. The president is arriving earlier than expected, Mamad Issouf Sodogo, the main organizer of the event, to his assistant. Warn the security team and make sure everything is in place for his speech. Participants flocked to the main auditorium, eager to hear the scheduled speeches. The atmosphere was electric, a mix of enthusiasm and hope that these discussions about the future of the continent inspired. Ladies and gentlemen, announced the strong voice of the Master of Ceremonies over the speakers, we have the honor of welcoming a special guest, an example of determination and excellence for African and global youth. Please applaud Usain Bolt. A standing ovation echoed through the room as the legendary Jamaican sprinter made his entrance. Tall and slender, dressed in an elegant black suit over a yellow shirt reminiscent of his country's colors, Bolt walked with that characteristic gait, a mix of confidence and relaxation. He greeted the crowd with his famous lightning gesture, sparking another wave of applause. Backstage, the teams were busy finalizing preparations. President Traoré awaited his turn to speak, surrounded by his security detail and a few close advisors. Moussa Diaboté, his main assessor since taking power, remained constantly by his side, phone in hand. "Mr. President, it's an honor to meet you," said Bolt when he was led to Traoré. The two men shook hands respectfully. "The honor is shared, Mr. Bolt," replied Traoré. "Your presence gives an international dimension to our forum. You are an inspiration to millions of young Africans." Their conversation continued for a few minutes, discussing the importance of sport in youth development and its role in national building. Both seemed genuinely interested in the young president's vision for his country, asking pertinent questions about the challenges Burkina Faso faced. During this exchange, Bolt noticed that Diaboté, Traoré's assessor, kept a constant eye on his phone. His face betrayed a certain tension despite his efforts to appear impassive. Several times, he moved slightly away to respond to messages, casting furtive glances around him. A security agent with a stern face approached Diaboté and whispered something in his ear. The assessor briefly nodded and resumed his place beside the president as if nothing had happened. But Bolt, accustomed to observing the smallest details on the athletics track, did not fail to notice this brief exchange or the slight change in Diaboté's attitude. "Everything is ready for your speech, Mr. President," announced Diaboté as he approached Traoré, interrupting his conversation with Bolt. "It might be time to review your notes one last time before going on stage." Traoré agreed and apologized to Bolt. "We will continue this discussion after the speeches. I have several ideas about sports programs for our youth on which I would like your opinion." Left alone, Bolt observed the comings and goings of the staff and officials. Something troubled him without being able to exactly define what. A week earlier, during a competition in Kenya, he had spoken with a Burkinabe coach who had told him about the political tensions in the region and the permanent risk of destabilization. Threats can come from outside, the coach had told him, but the most dangerous are often those that come from within. His words came back to memory as he watched Diaboté move away again, phone glued to his ear, his face tense. A strange feeling overcame Bolt. Something was not right in the seemingly festive atmosphere of this forum. On stage, preparations for Traoré's speech were coming to an end. Technicians checked the microphones and lights one last time. Security agents took up positions at strategic points in the room. The audience settled in, eager to hear the charismatic young leader who had promised to transform his country. Bolt decided to stay vigilant. After all, he might just be imagining things, but his instinct had rarely failed him on the track as in life. Ibrahim Traoré's speech began with strength. His voice resonated in the auditorium, immediately captivating the audience with its intensity and conviction. Africa does not need guardians but partners, he declared to loud applause. Our continent is full of resources and talents. Our youth is ready to meet the challenges of the modern world while preserving our identity and sovereignty. From his seat in the front row, Usain Bolt listened attentively, but his attention was also drawn to the movements around the room. He noticed a middle-aged man sitting 3 rows behind him who was frantically manipulating his cell phone, looking agitated. Their eyes met briefly before the man looked away. In the side row, another individual seemed to be communicating discreetly by gestures with someone located near an emergency exit. Their behaviors might have seemed trivial, but the accumulation of unusual small details made both uncomfortable. On stage, Traoré continued his passionate speech about African unity and the need for deep economic reforms. We can no longer accept being mere suppliers of raw materials for Western economies. It is time for our wealth to first serve to develop our own countries. This statement was met with another round of applause. Both noticed, however, that Moussa Diaboté, the president's assessor, had just discreetly left his place at the edge of the stage to head towards a side door. He exchanged a brief nod with a man in a suit who immediately disappeared into a corridor. Worried, both stood up and tried to follow Diaboté, but 2 security agents politely blocked his way. "I'm sorry, Mr. Bolt," one of them said in French with a strong accent, "this area is reserved for security personnel and officials." "I need to speak to someone from the organization," insisted Bolt. "It's important." "You can do that after the ceremony," the agent replied firmly. Frustrated, Bolt returned to his seat. He took out his own phone and sent a voice message to a contact he had met during a UN humanitarian mission in Africa. "Robert, it's Hussein. I'm at the Pan-African Forum in Ouagadougou. Something is not right here. I can't explain it, but I have a feeling that a dangerous situation could develop. Can you check if there is any information about potential threats against President Traoré today?" Meanwhile, a sound technician, stationed near the control room, nervously adjusted his headphones. He signaled to a colleague, pointing to his equipment with a concerned expression. "There are strange interferences on the presidential security frequency," he whispered. "Someone is jamming the communications." Both overheard this exchange and his suspicions intensified. He stood up again and tried to get the attention of a member of the organization, but everyone seemed absorbed in the proceedings of the forum. Outside the building, from what he could see through the large glass windows, several military vehicles had just parked. Men in uniform were getting out, some carrying weapons. This military presence could be normal to ensure the security of a head of state, but the timing and coordinated movements seemed suspicious. Both finally managed to approach a young woman wearing an organizer's badge. "Excuse me, miss," he said softly so as not to attract attention, "I think there's a security issue. I've noticed suspicious behaviors." "Mr. Bolt," she interrupted him with a polite but firm smile, "everything is under control. If you have any concerns, you can address them to the security manager after the event." It was clear she was not taking his worries seriously. After all, what did a Jamaican athlete know about security issues in an African country? On his phone, Bolt received a response from his UN contact. "No specific alert concerning Burkina Faso today, but the situation remains volatile in the region. Unauthorized troop movements have been reported in some areas. Stay cautious and keep me informed." This information reinforced Bolt's fears. He had to find a way to speak directly to President Traoré. But how to approach him with all the security surrounding him? A detail suddenly caught his attention. The entrance door of the building, normally guarded, was momentarily unsupervised, the agents having moved to welcome the arriving officers. This might be his chance to access the backstage. Meanwhile, in a room at the back of the building, Moussa Diaboté was speaking quietly with 3 military officers who did not belong to the president's usual close guard. "Everything is in place," said one of them. "The units loyal to General Ibrahim have taken positions around the national radio and the presidential palace. As soon as you give the signal, we will intervene here." Diaboté nodded. "Don't forget, the president must be captured alive. We need him to legitimize the transition. Then, he will be escorted out of the country." "And if he resists?" asked another officer. Diaboté's gaze hardened. "Do what is necessary," but discreetly. We don't want to create a matter. Taking advantage of this moment of inattention from the guards, Usain Bolt quickly slipped towards the door. His mind calculated each movement as if he were preparing for an Olympic race. The difference was that here, the stakes far exceeded a gold medal. A young technician who recognized him discreetly called out to him. "Mr. Bolt, you can't go that way." "I need to see the president," Bolt replied in a low voice. "It's a matter of life or death." The young man hesitated, impressed by the presence and determination of the famous athlete. "Follow me," he finally said. "I know a way to the lodges through the technical backstage." They took a narrow corridor, usually used by the technical teams to quickly access different parts of the building. The smell of new cables and fresh paint permeated the air. Electrical boxes and control panels lined the path. "My name is Adoma," whispered the technician. "I was in high school when you broke the world record in Beijing. You are my hero?" Bolt gave him a grateful smile but remained focused. "Adoma, do you know where the president is now?" "In the restroom, just behind the stage. He always takes a break between program segments." "There are 2 guards at the door. Can you get me in?" Adoma thought for a moment. "I can try. The guards know me. I take care of the president's audio equipment." They soon arrived near the room in question. As expected, 2 robust soldiers guarded the entrance. Adoma approached them confidently. "I have a problem with the president's lapel microphone," he said, showing the equipment he was carrying. "I need to adjust it before he returns to the stage." The guards consulted each other and one of them asked, pointing to Bolt, "And who is he?" "He's my assistant," improvised Adoma. "The president asked to speak to Mr. Bolt in private after his speech. He can wait inside while I fix the technical problem." The guards seemed to hesitate, but Bolt's name and notoriety played in his favor. One of them opened the door, allowing the 2 men to enter. Ibrahim Traoré was sitting at a small table, reviewing notes for the rest of his speech. He looked up, surprised by this intrusion. "Mr. Bolt, I didn't expect to see you here." "Mr. President, forgive this intrusion," began Bolt, "but I must speak to you in private. It's urgent and extremely important." Traoré considered the situation for a moment, then signaled Adoma to leave them alone. Once the door was closed, he invited Bolt to sit down. "I'm listening." "I believe a coup is underway," Bolt stated bluntly. "I have observed suspicious behavior since my arrival. Your advisor, Moussa Diaboté, seems to be involved." Traoré's face remained impassive, but a glimmer of concern crossed his gaze. "These are very serious accusations, Mr. Bolt. Do you have any proof?" "No concrete proof," admitted Bolt, "but I intercepted glances, gestures, discreet communications that don't lie. 3 weeks ago, during a competition in Kenya, I overheard a conversation between 2 men speaking French with a Burkinabe accent. They mentioned a silent change plan for soon. At the time, I didn't pay attention, but today, everything fits together." Traoré listened attentively, his expression becoming increasingly serious. "They talked about a more close to the lion. I suppose that's you, the lion." And the name Diaboté was mentioned, along with that of a certain General Idrogo. At the mention of this name, Traoré visibly smiled. General Idrogo was a senior officer who had expressed his discontent with some recent presidential decisions, particularly regarding international alliances. "Mr. Bolt," said Traoré slowly, "if what you tell me is true, then we are in grave danger. Moussa is my closest advisor since I took power. He has access to all sensitive information, to all security plans." "I don't claim to know the subtleties of Burkinabe politics," replied Bolt. "But my instinct has rarely failed me. Something is being prepared, and it will happen today, during this forum." Traoré now seemed fully convinced. He took a satellite phone from his pocket, a device that even Diaboté didn't know about, and quickly dialed a number. "Colonel Sankara, this is the president. Code number, I repeat, code number, no questions. Immediate execution." He hung up and turned to Bolt. "I have activated an emergency procedure known only to a few absolutely loyal officers. If Diaboté and his accomplices attempt anything, they will have a surprise. "What can we do now?" asked Bolt. "First, let's check if your suspicions are founded." Traoré went to a laptop on the table. "This is connected to the building's surveillance system. Let's see where Diaboté is now." They quickly browsed through the different security cameras. On one of them, they saw Diaboté surrounded by 3 men in military uniform in an adjacent conference room. Their gestures and attitudes left no doubt about the nature of their conversation. "You were right, Mama Traoré," his face closed. "Diaboté is betraying me." He pressed a few keys, activating the sound of the camera. Diaboté's voice reached them, clear and chilling. "As soon as the president returns to the stage, the general's men are in position. The blocking of official communications will begin in 10 minutes. Traoré turned off the screen, his face reflecting both anger and determination. "Mr. Bolt, I don't know how to thank you. You have probably just saved not only my life but also the stability of my country." "What do you plan to do?" asked Bolt. "Continue as if nothing happened," replied Traoré with surprising calm. "I will return to the stage and finish my speech while my loyal men neutralize the traitors. If Diaboté and his accomplices see that their plan is discovered, they could become unpredictable and endanger the civilians present." He stood up and adjusted his uniform. "Diaboté and his accomplices will be arrested discreetly. No one in the audience will know what is happening until everything is under control." Before leaving the room, Traoré firmly shook Bolt's hand. "Africa will never forget what you did today." Bolt nodded, aware of having played a role in something that far exceeded the sporting realm. For the first time in his life, his vigilance and perspicacity, rather than his speed, had made the difference. True to his strategy, Ibrahim Traoré returned to the stage to the applause of the audience, unaware of the drama unfolding backstage. His face betrayed none of the intense emotions he was feeling. Usain Bolt resumed his seat in the front row, discreetly observing the movements around the room. In the minutes that followed, soldiers in plain clothes, members of the special unit activated by Traoré, methodically infiltrated the building. They positioned themselves strategically, identifying and monitoring Diaboté's potential accomplices. "Dear African compatriots," Traoré began in a firm voice, "we were talking about sovereignty and unity, but these values rest on a fundamental pillar: loyalty to our peoples, to our principles, to our common vision of a strong and independent Africa." These words resonated in the room while, discreetly, Colonel Sankara and his men surrounded the conference room where Diaboté and his accomplices continued their preparations, unaware that their plot had been discovered. "Betrayal," continued Traoré, unconsciously giving a clue to the attentive spectators, "is the poison that has too long weakened our nations, leaders manipulated by foreign interests, corrupt elites preferring their personal enrichment to the development of their country." At the same time, in a perfectly coordinated movement, the colonel's men burst into the room where the conspirators were. The surprise was total. Diaboté tried to reach for his weapon but was immediately overpowered. "Moussa Diaboté," declared Colonel Sankara, "you are under arrest for high treason and conspiracy against the security of the state." Diaboté's face fell. "How? You underestimated the vigilance of certain people," the colonel simply replied. Meanwhile, other units loyal to the president neutralized the soldiers involved in the plot who had positioned themselves around the building. With communications between the conspirators cut off, many surrendered without resistance, understanding that their plan had failed. On stage, Traoré continued his speech, gradually increasing in intensity. He now spoke of vigilance and resilience, qualities that the Burkinabe people had to develop in the face of multiple security and political challenges. "Our youth must remain alert," he insisted. "In a world where threats constantly evolve, where the enemies of our sovereignty adopt friendly faces and seductive discourses, we must cultivate a critical mind and unshakable determination." The audience, electrified by these words that seemed particularly relevant, applauded enthusiastically, unaware that these words resonated with a very real situation that had just been thwarted. Backstage, Diaboté and his main accomplices were discreetly escorted to vehicles waiting at the back of the building. Colonel Sankara personally ensured that the operation remained invisible to the public and the media present. Bolt observed all this with a mix of relief and incredulity. Never would he have imagined playing such a role in political events of this magnitude. His intuition, developed over years of high-level competition, had allowed him to detect the subtle signals that betrayed the plot. When Traoré finished his speech, the room stood for a standing ovation. The young president greeted the crowd and then left the stage to loud applause. Backstage, he was immediately joined by Colonel Sankara, who gave him a brief report of the situation. "All the main conspirators have been arrested, Mr. President. We have also intercepted military units heading towards the National Radio and the Presidential Palace." General Idrogo was apprehended at his home as he was preparing to flee. Traoré nodded, his face serious but relieved. "Excellent work, Colonel. Make sure they are all detained in separate locations for interrogation. I want to know the exact extent of this plot and its possible international ramifications." He then turned to Bolt, who was waiting aside. "Mr. Bolt, I invite you to join me in my office. We have much to discuss." An hour later, in a secure office at the Presidential Palace, Traoré and Bolt were sitting face to face. The tension from the previous events began to fade, giving way to a more composed reflection. "How did you know?" asked Traoré. "What put you on the trail of this plot?" Bolt smiled slightly. "In my career, I've learned to read microexpressions, to sense tension in my opponents. It has become a second nature. Today, these skills served a very different purpose." "Destiny is sometimes strange," reflected Traoré. "Who would have imagined that the greatest sprinter in history would be the one to thwart a coup in Burkina Faso?" "Life sometimes places us in unexpected situations," replied Bolt. "The important thing is to be ready to act when the moment demands it." Traoré remained thoughtful. "You spoke a profound truth, Mr. Bolt. In my military and then political career, I have often found that courage consists not only in facing known danger but also in recognizing and confronting hidden threats." He stood up and walked towards a display case where several traditional Burkinabe objects were exhibited. He took out a gold medallion sculpted with a traditional mask surrounded by complex symbols. "This is a rare decoration reserved for great defenders of our nation. Today, you have earned the right to receive it, not for your sporting exploits, but for your act of civil bravery." Both accepted the honor with humility. "I only did what any conscious citizen should have done." "That is precisely what makes the difference," replied Traoré. "Too many people see without observing, hear without listening. Your vigilance saved lives and preserved the stability of our young democracy." An official photographer was called to immortalize this moment. The image of Traoré awarding the medal to Bolt symbolized a new form of alliance between sport and politics, based not on propaganda but on shared values of vigilance and integrity. The following days saw a series of events that would durably mark the history of Burkina Faso and, by extension, that of West Africa. True to his principles of transparency, Ibrahim Traoré decided to reveal to the people the truth about the attempted coup of the past days. In a solemn televised address, the president spoke directly to the Burkinabe. "Dear compatriots, our young democracy nearly fell to individuals who claimed to serve your interest. Moussa Diaboté, in whom I had placed my trust, was plotting with corrupt officers to seize power and place our country back under foreign influence. Irrefutable evidence was presented to the public, intercepted communications, testimonies from the arrested conspirators, incriminating documents found during searches. The scale of the plot stunned the nation. Major international media outlets relayed the information, highlighting Bolt's unexpected but crucial role in this affair. Without the vigilance and courage of a foreign guest, this coup could have succeeded," Traoré humbly admitted. "This event reminds us that we must remain constantly vigilant, that sovereignty is defended every day." An official ceremony was organized at the Presidential Palace to honor Usain Bolt. In front of cameras from around the world and representatives from several African nations, the former sprinter received honorary citizenship of Burkina Faso and was named a Hero of the Nation, a distinction rarely granted to a foreigner. "I am deeply touched by this honor," declared Bolt during the ceremony. "I did not run that day, but it was perhaps the most important race of my life. It did not earn me an Olympic medal, but something much more precious, the knowledge of having contributed to preserving the stability of a nation and potentially saving lives." His speech, filled with humility and sincere emotions, resonated with millions of young Africans. On social media, the hashtag #BoltHero went viral, accompanied by messages celebrating his actions and calling on African youth to engage in the defense of democracy. As for Diaboté, he was brought to justice with his accomplices. During a public trial broadcast live on national television, he admitted his guilt and revealed the involvement of foreign powers interested in the country's mineral resources. "I betrayed my president and my country," he admitted, his face marked by shame. "The thirst for gain and promises of power blinded me. I ask for forgiveness from the Burkinabe people, even if I know that some betrayals are unforgivable." These revelations sparked a wave of popular indignation but also a collective awareness of the persistent vulnerabilities of young African democracies to external interference. Learning from this experience, Traoré implemented a national civil defense program called Citizen Vigilance. This initiative encouraged ordinary citizens to report suspicious behavior and destabilization attempts, thus creating a network of civil protection complementary to conventional security forces. "National security is not only the concern of the military," he explained during the launch of the program. "Every citizen can and must contribute to the protection of our institutions. As Usain Bolt has shown us, sometimes a simple attentive look can save a nation." Similar structures were quickly adopted by other countries in the region, creating a positive domino effect. The heads of state of Mali, Niger, and Guinea expressed their interest in this model of citizen participation in national security. A few months after these events, Bolt returned to Burkina Faso to inaugurate a sports center for youth funded by his foundation. During this visit, he was welcomed as a family member by thousands of enthusiastic young Burkinabe. "Sport has taught me discipline, perseverance, and observation," he told the young people gathered around him. "These qualities are not only useful on an athletics track but in all aspects of life. Each of you has the potential to make a difference, to be a champion in your own way." The sports center, named the Usain Bolt Complex, quickly became an emblematic place combining sports training and civic education. Thousands of young people there learn not only to develop their athletic talents but also to become aware and engaged citizens. A documentary titled The Invisible Race: How Usain Bolt Saved a Democracy was produced by an international channel, detailing the events of that historic day. Broadcast in more than 70 countries, it helped raise global public awareness of the complex challenges faced by young African democracies. At the film's premiere in Ouagadougou, Traoré and Bolt shared the stage, symbolizing an unlikely but powerful alliance between sport and politics. "The story we share, Mr. Bolt and I, reminds us that destiny sometimes takes unexpected paths," philosophized Traoré. A Jamaican athlete and a Burkinabe soldier brought together by circumstances to defend universal values of freedom and sovereignty. "This experience has deeply transformed me," added Bolt. "It showed me that our skills, whatever they may be, can serve causes beyond ourselves. I came to Burkina Faso to inspire youth with my sporting exploits. I live inspired by the resilience and determination of the Burkinabe people." In the years that followed, this story became a powerful symbol of citizen vigilance and international solidarity. It was integrated into the school curriculum of several African countries, teaching new generations the importance of remaining vigilant against threats to democracy. The friendship between Traoré and Bolt endured, transcending cultural and geographical barriers. They continue to collaborate on various projects aimed at promoting democratic governance and development through sport in Africa. As for Diabote, after serving part of his sentence, he devoted the rest of his life to raising awareness among young people about the dangers of corruption and betrayal. His testimony, as painful as it was, became a powerful educational tool on the devastating consequences of choices motivated by greed and personal ambition. The story of this attempted coup is now known well beyond the borders of Burkina Faso. It reminds us that sometimes heroes emerge from the most unexpected places and that the vigilance of a single individual can change the course of an entire nation's history. As one journalist wrote in his analysis of these events, "In a world where speed is often synonymous with superficiality, Usain Bolt showed us that it can also ally with the depth of vision and the acuity of observation." His greatest victory was not won on an athletics track but in the corridors of a conference center where the destiny of a nation was decided in a few decisive hours.